members, it's 5:30. Our first item, I'll call it to order. And the first item is our pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Vice Chair, could you read our mission statement?
The mission of Marshall Public Schools is to educate, support, and prepare all learners for success.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second.
It's open. Any additions? Hearing none. Please vote. It is approved. Tiger Spotlight.
Tonight we have the opportunity to recognize Jenny Kirk from the Marshall Independent. I think she's not here willingly, but we're glad that she's here. And Jenny, on behalf of the board and our district, we want to express our gratitude to you for, I believe it's been 12 years of excellent school news coverage and for helping us share some of the many great things happening in our schools. Your professionalism and desire to provide excellent news coverage of the schools over the past 12 years has been greatly appreciated and felt by many people. During our time working with Jenny, it's become evident that she has a passion for school news and takes the time to learn the facts and become involved in school-related topics. Because of this, our community has had the privilege of staying informed and being informed about what is happening in our district and in other area schools as well, because we know you've done work in those districts as well. Recently, it's my understanding that Jenny accepted another position, still in the media world, and we're glad about that. So on behalf of the Board of Education and our district and all our staff and students and families, Jenny, thank you for caring about our students, our staff, and our community. Thank you for all the hard work that you've done for everyone, and your commitment to providing school-related news has been greatly appreciated. We wish you the best in the new position. And I believe Mr. Chapman has a framed certificate that he would like to present you with. We'll take some photos and get you in the photo.
Photos weren't part of this.
Yeah, they are now.
My pleasure. You know how this works. We're going to take photos.
Thank you for caring. One of the few times I'm not the shortest one.
I know, right? Thank you so much.
You're one with all the board too, Tricia? All the board members?
Yeah, come on.
Oh, thank you very much.
I decided to be in front because these big guys are
That's
coming.
right.
Us short people have to be in front.
You have to move forward. Great job. Shorter people. Bears like man.
Come on,
Oh,
giants.
said that.
Well, I want to get to partner with them partially. So.
You gotta stand.
Oh, I blinked. Thank you guys for always being so, thank you all for being so available too. Good, bad. You guys are always willing to help me out, so thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, yep. Thank you. You too. See you. See you. Yep. Thank you so much. Absolutely appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Jenny, your piece on Amron was just exceptional.
Oh. Still gotta have one on Devin? Divine? That was the next one. Thank you all very much.
Thank you for all you did. You bet.
You're going to stay for the meeting, right, Jenny?
It is now time for the public forum. Anybody in the public that would like to approach the board, now is your time. Moving on to our presentation, school safety team update on the ALICE implementation. Welcome, administrators.
Hello, School Board. Tonight we're here to provide you with an update and additional information on the implementation of our ALICE model. Tonight with me I have Jeremy Williams, Darcy Love, Mary Kay Thomas, and Brian Jones. Sarah Van Louis was unable to be here tonight, but we are what we consider ourselves the ALICE team for the district. And you may recall last August we approached the board and we shared information with you about the ALICE training that we had attended and asked for your support in implementing this model in our district. And so since that time, we've made great progress in the implementation of our ALICE model, including training all of our staff, communicating with the parents in the community, and the most important component, training our students on the ALICE model. And so we'll talk about that tonight, and we'll also share some information with you regarding the next steps. So starting off with, we'll talk about our staff training. A majority of our staff participated in a full training and drill in October. This 2+ hour training took place in each of the buildings and included both classroom and an active drill model. During the active drill module, staff were given 4 scenarios in which an active intruder actually entered into their classroom, or a simulated intruder. They were to use the information that they had learned and the techniques to get to safety. Overwhelmingly, the feedback from staff was positive, and they were thankful for the district's willingness to implement this model. For those staff that were unable to make it on that October 17th date, we had a makeup session that very next week, and then moving forward for any newly employed staff in the district, another training was held in February where we followed a very, very similar training plan. And so to date, we believe that all of our staff have been trained on the ALICE model. And it's at this point in time I would like to thank the Marshall Police Department for their partnership with implementing the ALICE model. The Marshall Police Department provided all of what we called the active shooters. They were all Marshall police officers, and they've taken an interest in this, and they've wanted to be our partner throughout the whole process, and so a big thank you to the Marshall Police Department for that. And then soon you're going to hear from each principal on the implementation plans in their respective buildings. Please know that our teachers and our administrators took a lot of time in the development of the curriculum and the outline of the training, and they did a phenomenal job of training our students. And then regarding communication. So communication in the district, we've tried to do a thorough job of informing families about the ALICE model. We began communicating with families in November via email and phone calls. And then since that time, each building has communicated specific building-related information. We've created the poster that you see there to be hung up in classroom and common areas. And the purpose of that is a reminder to our students and to our community that we are an ALICE school. And then we've also communicated through Mr. Munson's Tiger Talk TV and radio shows. And I would say, and building principals can chime in as they're presenting as well, but parents have been very appreciative and complimentary of the process with the district. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Darcy, and she can share with you what they've done from an elementary standpoint.
And it reads Parkside and early childhood, but Westside worked with us as well. And so due to the weather, everything was delayed a little bit, but we did meet as a team, early childhood through grade 4, to make sure that we were kind of in line with what we wanted to do. It does look a little different than what the middle school and high school did, just because of the age of our students. So recognizing that, we felt like we needed to take more time with our students to help them better understand this model, what it looks like for them. It just took a little bit more training and support for them. So what we did is we outlined some activities for March, April, and May, and focused on some key concepts that we felt students needed to know and understand. And so the very first thing is just listening and following directions. Really, if there is ever an active shooter situation, that is our very first thing, is we need to get their attention quickly, and we need them to listen and follow directions without, why, I don't want to, where do we go, or any of those kinds of questions. They need to know that this is a very serious situation, it's an emergency, so we need their attention, they need to stop, they need to look, and they need to listen, and then follow those directions. The other objective for this month was assuring that all of our students knew where the special meeting place was, depending on where the intruder enters the building or where the danger is. There's 5 different sites around the school where students can go to and wait for staff to give them direction about where to go next. If you exit out the back, there's no easy way to get around the building and over to the American, which is where our reunification process takes place. So we needed students to know that there's multiple places they can go. They're going to go to that closest one, and there will be adults there eventually to help them get to where they needed to be. So that first month, or this first month, really has been about stop, look, and listen, and then where do they go? If they're able to get out of the building and the teacher says run to your special spot, they know where that's at. So that was in March. We also had to take some time. We used the book, I'm Not Scared, I'm Prepared by Julia Cook. Some of you may recognize her as an author for early childhood and for elementary school books, but she's a wonderful author, and this book is created specifically for Alice and talks about that model. It uses the sheep, the shepherd, and the wolf. So we did need to take some time to help them understand a sheep, a shepherd, and a wolf. And so we made this visual. But as we were doing it, looking for shepherd was hard. We just kept getting pictures of Jesus. So it took us a while to get what exactly we were looking for. But for students to understand what a shepherd is and comparing that to the classroom teacher, the sheep being the students, and then the wolf being the stranger in the building. This is a page from the book. Again, stop, look, and listen. This is what that looks like. When I give this direction, you don't ask me why. Just get to where you're supposed to be. And so where you're supposed to be is that special meeting place. Then in April, this month we'll talk about exit awareness. How do you get out? Looking at the exits in the building. If it's a window, if it's a door, wherever you're at in the building, what's the best way to get out? And then also talking about running in a zigzaggy pattern. So not running just in a straight line, but running in a zigzaggy pattern. And so all of those things are talked about in the book. And then we also have an activity book. And so each of those days we have different activities that we've picked out from the book to support that certain lesson. Then this is an example of that. These are our special spots. You can see those identified on the map. All of our teachers will take all of our students to each of those spots so they know where they are at. Then in May, we'll work on barricading and distraction and what that looks like in the classroom. Again, rereading that book and using different activities from our activity book. So overall, really the things that we want to see happen is that our teachers read this book to our students at least 5 times. We've also done a recording of it so they can play a recording or they can read it or have somebody come in and read it to them. And then assure that students really know that stop, look, and listen, that what that signal is, what that means, and reinforcing that. So that's really what we've done at the elementary level. Kids have just picked up on it right away, and it's going very well. And I think a lot of that is that book has been a really valuable resource. So, Mary Kay?
Thank you, dear.
Middle school has done some of the things that Park has done, but not to the same depth or the number of readings that Darcy's implemented at Parkside. We really tried to align everything from Park to West to middle and then high school. Middle school started with their committee. We have 1 grade level rep on the committee, so we have 4 different people that are taking it back to the team levels, discussing the curriculum development and especially the rollout for the students so that everybody gets the same or very similar information. With regard to the book, we have the book at 5th through 8th also, but it is a very elementary book. We've used it with a lot of our EL population, especially early in language, but also with some of our special education kiddos, and just tried to give them some basic foundational information through both their EL teachers, their SPED teachers, and then in their core instruction as well. So any of our special needs kids got both the instruction in pullout and then again in the gen ed classroom. Guys, just keep an eye on the cookies with regard to rookie, because that's what the concern is. March, we did the parent notifications at the middle school level after the district did theirs, and then a staff presentation, and then each team met also for a question answer session and then the student training days. And then in April, we'll do one advisory day in addition that is just a reminder of everything that they went through in March. We'll do that again in May. And then we'll also do a practice evacuation drill in May after all the testing is accomplished and some of those things are out of the way. This is just a breakdown of when the students saw the PowerPoints. So there were 5 different PowerPoints at the middle school level that kids saw, and I think it was 5th through 12th pretty similarly. Maybe it was more than that, but again, snow days kind of took over on that Thursday early release, so we just backed things up so that we implemented some of those days the following week. But otherwise, kids got one-day PowerPoints. They all received an index card to take notes or an exit ticket each one of the days that they were presented, so that if they had any questions, they wrote those down. As kids left the classroom, teachers collected those notes. Those notes were pretty valuable in just knowing how kids were feeling about everything in general. Some of them were referred on to counselors in the middle school building so that they could take care of some of the anxiety and things that went along with the conversations. And then parents were contacted with regard to those specifics if kids had a difficult time with some of that, so that parents could also process some of the conversations at home in the evenings. But they were very preventive in nature, and I thought the teachers did an excellent job in accomplishing what's really a scary subject for everybody, but especially for our kiddos.
Okay, were there a lot of kids with anxiety over this?
Not necessarily with just this, but we have a lot of kids with anxiety.
I understand that.
And
I
so
just
this-
read an article the other day about this kind of training scaring kids to the benefit it's not good.
I think I may have read something pretty similarly. We didn't have anything that was heightened in a different percentile than we have with kids with anxiety at the middle school. So counselors did those comparisons as far as their notification of kids with anxiety and the notifications that they got from staff with and during the discussions. We didn't see a change in those numbers. So, but kids who typically have some significant anxiety, we did see those kids in the offices during those times. So.
When you do the practice drill in May, are you going to have a prep prior to that to give the kids a heads up that you're going to do this practice drill?
They will get that review date. So they'll get the review date ahead of the practice drill, and the practice drill won't go to an ultimate location. We'll stay on campus for that still. So hopefully it will be, I don't know if downplayed is the right word for it, but it's about just getting to a safe place outside of the building.
What's your sense as an administrator of the process?
I think the process has been healthy for all of us to give it some significant thought. And if I had a child in the system right now, I would definitely want my child to get this information. If it was Park or West or middle or high school, I want them to have as much information as they can have. Yeah.
You feel the same way, Brian?
I do. I look at it and say this is a life skill, unfortunately. It's the reality of the world we live in. So whether it's in school or at the grocery store, at a church, a movie theater,
Airport.
a professional game, an airport, I mean, this is a life skill. And so hopefully, I certainly feel more prepared after going through the training. I hope our staff would say the same thing, and I hope our students would at least feel like they know what to do other than shelter in place and be as quiet as you can and just hope that nothing would happen. So.
This is just what we have left to do as far as the school year goes. So it's the review days, one in April, one in May, and then to practice that evac drill. Any questions at the middle school level? Okay.
We are pretty similar as well. We moved our time back. We trained our staff on February 15th. We had a noon release day, so we spent the afternoon previewing with our teachers what they would be teaching. We did this in our block 1. We ran an adjusted schedule for that week. We moved the week back because of weather and some other things. We had some teams at a state tournament, so tried to find a week that would maybe fit a little bit better. And so we did ours the end of March, notified parents ahead of time through Blackboard Connect, made the presentations available to parents as well. Our counselors also took a proactive approach. They pulled some students in who they thought might have some anxiety with regards to this, because, and we said, this is some heavy information, and for some it's going to be could be scary. So they tried to do some pre-teaching with students. Some said we'd prefer to come down to student services. Others said, I think I'll be okay, and we're able to make it through. So I'm appreciative of the insight that our school counselors had in anticipating and trying to put some supports in place for our kids. As you can see, we did training March 25th through the 29th. Lessons at our level were a little bit shorter, about 20 minutes for each block. It allowed some time for some discussion. Then just our schedule. The first day was a little bit longer. We had a training video where they actually saw it was a training video that another school district had created and fit our needs very well, so we didn't recreate the wheel there. And then you can see on the board kind of the focus of each of those days. And on Friday, then we did a scenario-based. We had talked about doing a drill. We anticipated that late in March there was still going to be some significant snow on the ground and mud and all of those things. So we did just a scenario. And then really our next steps, we still have a couple of evacuations to do. We at the beginning of this year, worked with the city to utilize Red Baron Arena as our reunification. About a week later, we had the dryer overheating incident and the fire alarms went off. So we practiced that one for real time a little quicker than what I had planned to. But so we'll probably do one more of those still this spring. You know, this isn't something that's in addition to. It's part of needing to do our lockdowns, drills. This would be another example of that, and along with our evacuation drills. So it fits in pretty well. It's a little bit new. We've identified our rally points. We don't have a lot of places to rally to other than over to Red Baron, but we've identified some certain spots around our grounds that the main thing is evacuate as quickly as you can and try to get to these locations, and then we'll get over to Red Baron Arena just as soon as we can. And feedback I received from our students was that they felt more empowered, and from our staff, they reported to me that they really felt like our students were very attentive and engaged, ask insightful questions. So I think it's something that they want to know, and that's where I come back to. Hopefully they feel like they now have a life skill as they go off. I know this is being utilized widely throughout many schools, colleges, universities. I think it's just kind of going to be a part of life moving forward. And then lastly, our next steps on June 11th and 12th for our district, we are hosting the ALICE training that we went to last year. So the ALICE Institute will be in Marshall to provide training. Those folks that get trained will become trainers. They'll be coming to us, to Marshall, from a variety of institutions, both law enforcement and education, workplace, and so it's really about, again, just helping to spread that message so they can go back and train their employees, who can in turn train their constituents, and it'll hopefully help more people be informed. Along with doing our annual student training and drills. So this isn't something that's one year and done. It'll be something that we'll continue to train our students on at all levels as they come into our system, along with new staff as new staff comes into our system.
Will we have any more staff staff involved with the Training Institute for certification?
Yep, we've kind of identified that next wave, if you will, of folks within our system to train.
Step forward to do it?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, we actually probably had more people who wanted to than what we felt like we needed to, and certainly there's a financial commitment to this. So we felt like we have a plan that makes sense to provide some additional coverage at each of our buildings.
So you'll have additional mentoring in each building?
Yep.
Good.
Yep. So, other questions that anyone would have?
Do we have enough door locks for our door guards for each door in the buildings? I had heard that Parkside did not.
I was gonna say, at Parkside, we do not. We've improvised and put like computer cords and different things that they can tie around. But as far as like devices that actually lock the door, we do not.
And one of the things in the training that I'll say, and we've, as we went through the training back in October, it's easy to put a lot of trust into a simple door lock, but if you get someone who's really yanking on it and pulling it hard, it maybe is going to slow them down, but unless it's a deadbolt, it's probably not going to stop them completely. So we've seen, just like Darcy mentioned with computer cords, we've had some of our teachers get pretty competitive, or not competitive, but ingenuitive about how to come up with the best. And certainly I never paid attention until this year, the number of different types of doors that we have in a school. Some swing in, some swing out. And so in some ways that really creates, if it's a right hand versus a left hand, and the location of the room has created some interesting challenges. And what a lot of our teachers do is just simply take a chair and stick the chair leg down into their door, and that will go against the frame and creates something that's pretty sturdy in terms of then trying to get into a room. So they've become creative. I say competitive, but they've really become creative.
And I would say too that the other piece of the barricade is not just so they can't get the door open, but if they do get the door open, that there's a lot of things in their way, so they can't just walk in the door, that there's tables that they would have to clear, chairs that they would have to clear, whatever it is. So it's not just keeping the door closed, but also giving them obstacles as they're trying to get in the room. The other thing I would say too is at Parkside, all of their doors are locked, but we have a thing that goes along the outside so the door doesn't shut. So as soon as they take that door block off, the door is actually locked, and the doors, good or bad, but when you pull on them, a lot of times the whole door handle falls off, and then there's really nothing to pull on, so that might be a good thing. So while we don't have any additional, deadbolts or that type of thing, I feel like we do have a good understanding of that barricade process and what it needs to look like and how to best keep our kids safe.
Yeah, and Alice is a multi-step process. It's not you barricade and you stop.
I understand that.
You barricade by time, and then maybe you're evacuating out a window, or like you said, you're looking for items to throw. And so really that's what Alice is teaching, is how to take that thinking to the next step to save yourself.
So since you've gone through this training, I was blessed and got to go to a different church in Oklahoma. It was a big church. As soon as I walked in, I was met by armed police officers. And I guess they have one at every entrance of that church. So it gives you a new meaning of prayer. But do you think we need to get to a point to having more resource officers on our staff? What does Alice recommend? I mean, we're blessed with a great police department. Reaction times here in seconds, but I just was wondering what Alice thought about that. Do they recommend resource officers in every building, or?
I don't remember the Alice training really focusing on that or giving any sort of recommendation. It was simply on alert, lockdown, inform, counter, evacuate. So I don't think Alice would probably take that sort of stance and make that recommendation. One additional thing that I wanted to just mention is earlier in the year, Tricia wrote a community grant and was able to secure funding to purchase ladders, fire ladders that we have in our buildings that have second floor. So if we ever had students second floor that needed to get out. And so it's just sort of one more step, because a lot of our staff that are on the second floor had questions about that. And I've had several questions, as I think the others have too, about, how do we break windows, and do we need to buy some glass punches? And we're not planning to practice that anytime soon, but certainly have had a lot of questions about getting out of a room if you can't get out the door.
Brian, one question, going back to your comment about barricading. Did Alice provide any training or any understanding in what works best, what type of door works best to barricade? I mean,
they really didn't give any sort of recommendation. They said, hey, we know that in all types of facilities, there's all types of doors. Some are really strong, some are really not, if they're a lot of glass. And they just talked about, you've got to be creative and take the resources that you have on hand to try to make it as difficult as possible for an intruder to come into, in this case, a classroom. And so file cabinets and desks and chairs and stacking things up. And so did you all take any time to practice and create a barricade?
We watched the video, and there were some students that got the chair and locked the door, and if the intruder got in, start throwing binders and some other stuff that they could find, while other students call or get help or evacuate. So it's like a team.
And I would say, yeah, a team, and one of the major points of the training is there's strength in numbers, and so it doesn't matter the age, but the more people you have, the more easy it is to stop a single person. And in many cases, these are single individuals or double, but not a whole group typically.
One of the things that Alice teaches us in our training is that there's no equipment that you can buy out there that's going to save you from a bad guy. And so it's how you react in that situation is what is going to save you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to our consent agenda, motion to approve, do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please vote. It is approved. Approval of the bills for March. Motion to approve the bills, do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's open for discussion.
Just point out, general fund bills are down from last month, and that actually includes our snow removal bill, so that's good. Food service and transportation were up a little bit. It's because we had more days in March than February. We'll talk about snow days later, but otherwise, it's the usual. Just ask for approval.
Very good. Any questions? Hearing none, please vote. It is approved. Financials, anything you'd like to highlight?
Nothing specific. It's just been kind of interesting with the shifting of the days for this year, with the percentages last year, but I believe everything is on schedule.
Board forum, board members. Anybody like to bring up anything?
Just the presentations that we're making. You and I are going to meet after with regard to our heritage points and so forth to meet with our senior citizen group. I like the way it's come together and the way people are stepping up to the plate to do that. And I heard from Jill earlier that we had 100 absentee ballots already today. So I think the organization for that, Scott, is well done. I don't know if we've left a stone unturned, really.
Very good. Administrator's report.
Just a couple things from each report. In my report, I've been trying to keep you updated what's happening with the legislative session. I believe that they're on a break right now. When they come back, they have a lot of work to do as far as education goes. Also shared an enrollment update that as of April 1st, we had 14 more students than we finished last year with. That's also 18 more than we were funded for last year. And if everything holds true, knock on wood, this will be our 9th consecutive year of enrollment growth. In Tiffany's report, she shared information about parent-teacher conferences. I don't know if they're on the list for potentially for board members to distribute information, but May 2nd and May 7th, I believe, are parent-teacher conferences for early childhood, or they have events going on, so that might be something we want to add. I want to make sure that all of you know that tomorrow, the Commissioner of Education, Mary Catherine Ricker, will be here at 1:30. She'll be here until 3 o'clock. She'll do a tour of the voluntary pre-kindergarten and early childhood areas, and then also she'll have the opportunity to take a look at some of our safety and security projects that will happen here at this building as a result of the $480-some thousand school safety grant that we wrote and received. Darcy's report, she shared some information about kindergarten roundup that took place recently. I believe we're hoping for somewhere around 200 kindergartners. I think there were 205 or 230, I can't remember the number of invitations that went out. So we'll see registration happening really over the next several months, right until school starts. In Jim's report from Westside, he shared information about the Shark Tank competition or activity that's taking place right now. Pretty cool stuff, and I think the second round of presentations is this week. He also shared that they're working on transition plans for second graders who will be third graders next year and fourth graders who will be fifth graders next year as they transition into new buildings. Mary Kay's report included information about various career exploration activities that take place at the middle school. And then she also shared that approximately $250 was raised by the middle school student council as part of their penny wars. That's they will match that, so $500 either was or will be given to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Brian shared that Grant Hoff and David Rabe have been named as commended students for the National Merit Scholarship Program. I don't think they'll find out if they're semifinalists until sometime in the future, but commended status is certainly worth noting. And then he shared some dates coming up for end of the year events. Chad's report from Maytech, he shared information about increasing the use of formative assessments and determining their effectiveness in terms of helping the students have fewer missing assignments and have more passing grades, as those are a couple of their focuses this year. And then he also shared that there will be a spring celebration on May 4th for American Indian students and families. There'll be some cultural activities. A meal will be served, and there'll be networking and visiting opportunities. Bruce shared that the Minnesota State High School League competitive section alignments or information that was recently released. There's a few changes in terms of who are in our sections for various activities, but the majority of those are the same. Jeremy provided some updates on work that he's doing in our strategic plan. Beth shared some exciting news that, excuse me, on March 30th for our family engagement event. That was a Saturday. We had 265 parents and students who turned out for that, so I'm going to say that that's probably close to double what we had last year, so we're seeing growth in terms of those family engagement events, and that's exciting. Jackie shared a special education staffing update. We've had a number of open positions, and I think 5 of the 6 maybe have been filled. And then she also shared that we'll be doing a STAR project for next year, implementing that. And that's a comprehensive program that uses sort of the best practice teaching strategies that have been identified as being most effective for students with significant learning challenges. So that was something that she reached out to her special education teachers to see if they wanted to be a part of, and they did, so they'll be working on that next year. Scott Vandermillen shared that Southwest ABE and MCS will be partnering to present a culture conference on Saturday, May 11th, and the focuses of those are to educate the community on various cultures, and again, that networking and just mixing different cultures together, and that will be paid for with grants that have been secured. And then we continue to be thankful to Studio One for their continued support broadcasting events. I believe there were 9 that they broadcast in March, so thanks to Alex and his crew and everybody at Studio One for getting those events online so people can watch them.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions, board? Director of Business, do you have anything to highlight?
I do. We had an exciting visit from OSHA on April 4th. Just trying to make this year eventful. But it went well. I laid out the different areas that they visited. Person, at least when he left, we haven't got an official report yet, said they didn't think there were any major findings. Special thank you to Tricia, Jill, and Gwen, who scrambled to get the paperwork needed, which we had, but they did a nice job getting that to them. And then Warren and the custodial crew, I went around with OSHA and Warren, and spectacular. They do a great job, so kudos to them. I laid out our vehicle situation. I think you guys all know where we are with that. We had a couple of vehicles we had to purchase because the other ones were no longer usable. And then we'll talk about the daycare increases coming up.
Questions, board? Yeah, I'm not there yet. It's the next one. I wouldn't. I might forget Dion, but student school board report.
I will go ahead and start with the Marshall Middle School. Games and tournament this week. We have golf on April 16th in Jackson County Central at 4:30 p.m. Softball on April 16th in Worthington at 4:30. And one on April 20th for the B Squad tournament in Minneota. We have track on April 19th, and that is on Tracy High School at 4:15. For Parkside, we have the kindergarten concert beginning at 6:30 on Tuesday, April 16. We have the family literature night from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. on 9 a.m. on Thursday, April 25th. The last day of project success is on Thursday, May 9th. From Marshall High School, we had the ALS training for all grades. Teen Lit Con is on April 27th. Prom will be also on April 27th. The theme this year will be Under the Cherry Blossom. We have the Grand March starting on 6:30, the hypnosis at 8:15 to 9:15, and the dance begins 9:15. After prom activity will begin 12 p.m. Students are not allowed to leave except with parents' permission. State testing information, 10th grade MCA reading test will be on April 23rd to the 24th. That is aligned with the language art class for the second semester. 10th grade MCA science test will be on May 6th to 7, also aligned with the biology class on the second semester. 11th grade MCA math test will be on April 29th to 30th. Parent-teacher conference will be on April 25th. For May Tech, 11 students completed their CNA class with a passing grade. Westside Elementary also had their ALS training. Spring MCA will be for math on April 17th to the 23rd. spring MCA reading will be April 24th to April 30th. That's all I have.
Thank you. Moving on to our discussion items, school board goals and updates.
Just a pretty full list of different advocacy efforts that board members have been involved in terms of communicating with the legislature. Important time to be doing that, and also several presentations and meetings that board members have attended and or handed out fast facts flyers to those in attendance. So appreciate your efforts, all of you, for taking time to make sure we get the word out about the referendum and also contact legislators.
This would be our first readings of policy 421 through 425 and 427. Anybody have any questions? Moving on to our action items. Our first action item is approval of the calendar adjustments. Do we have a motion? Motion to approve. Do we have a second? Open for discussion.
So if it's okay, I'll just kind of go down the memo that was attached. And if you have any questions as we go through, just let me know. Then we'll get to what the recommendation is. So Minnesota State Statute 128.14 gives the different hours, instructional hours that are required by the school district, as well as the minimum of 165 days of instruction. As it pertains to the new law, the snow day relief, if we meet the required hours and days of that state statute, we wouldn't need to use it. So a lot of this is going to pertain to April 10th and before, and then we'll talk about what happened last week. As of April 10th, we plan to make up enough missed snow days remaining over the required number to have the required number of hours. To get the required hours, we extended the school day on Wednesday to 3:05, no more early outs. It started March 6th through May 22nd. The PLCs then were extended to 4:15. And then instructional days that were planned to make up on were made up on February 18th, 25th, April 18th, and then planned to do an instructional day on June 3rd. May 30th, which was a half of a day, instructional day, was then changed to a full day, and then May 31st was changed to a half of instructional day. On April 1st, the school board executive governance committee met to discuss the different options at that time, and it was discussed that June 3rd would be a staff development day for certified and support staff instead of an instructional day, because even at that point, we would still have met the instructional hours required by that state statute. Any full snow days after April 1st that would either need to be made up to meet the instructional hours required, or if they aren't made up, we would need to use those submitted to the commissioner with using that new law. According to the law, if a school board resolves to count a day that school was canceled as an instructional day, school district must compensate employees and the contract employers. For employees, that would mean allowing them to work in another day that the school district designates, or compensate them for the days not worked. Okay. So just a couple of side notes as it pertains to our support staff. As of April 1st, there was only one full snow day that wasn't being made up or paid to them. I know there was some concern about the hours and the days for our support staff getting shorted hours because of the snow days, the early outs and the late starts. It was the school board executive governance committee's potential recommendation, if June 3rd was changed to an instructional day, from an instructional day to staff development day, this would include the hourly support staff so they could make up the hours for that day. And it was also recommended to pay the support staff one full day for February 8th that won't be made up. Additionally, for the support staff, the late starts and early outs, it's important to know, because there was 38 now. It was 33 and a half before last week, 38 hours that were missed. They can use their personal leave to make up some of those hours. And then we also we are allowing them to make up some of those hours outside their regular day. There's a few stipulations to that. They have to have it approved by their building administrator, can't result in overtime. And then we're having them clock in on a separate job code so it can be tracked. So they're allowed to get up to those hours missed. And I don't believe that that was allowed prior years, but we thought with the extent of the number of hours this year that we would do that. It's kind of, Scott and I had talked in alignment with our strategic planning, staff retention, offer something to the staff, but they have to work to get those hours back. So with that being said, the recommendation for this would be to pay the support staff for February 8th, which was a snow day that won't be made up. Make May 31st the last instructional day with a noon release. The afternoon would be a teacher workshop. Use June 3rd as a staff development day for support staff and licensed staff. And then April 11th and 12th, we actually had to start digging into, we went below the instructional hours by the state statute. Up until that point, we would have had those hours in. So recommendation number 4 is to submit those instructional hours, the snow day, for the snow day relief bill for June 4th, which is to make up for April 11th snow day, to the Commissioner of Education, and use that as an additional staff development day for our support staff and licensed staff. And then 5 would be to submit those instructional hours for the snow day relief bill for June 5th, which would be for April 12th snow day, to the Commissioner, and do not make up that day or hours, but accordance to the new law, we would pay the employees and the contracted employers. So open up to any questions. It's a lot of information.
Board members, questions?
So there'll be 2 staff development days, the 3rd and the 4th, 2 in a row.
Yes.
And we feel, we've talked, and there's plenty of information and sessions that we can fill in with that. One thing is March 25th was supposed to be a staff development day that we had to make up as a school day, and that was for licensed and staff, or support staff. And Jeremy's got that lineup with a few tweaks. We can fill up that day.
Is the offer to make up the 38 hours, is that new, or was that something that was implemented last time we discussed, or when this all came up?
So,
so will they only be able to make up those hours from the time this is potentially voted on to June 7th?
correct. And the reason that we went to June 7th, a couple of reasons. It gives them 3 days in June, full days in June, to be able to make up 7 to 8 hours a day. They've had since, I think it was February 14th to start making up hours.
That's what I was wondering.
Yep. And then also our summer school starts the next week, and we really want support staff to sign up to work our summer school, so we're not shorted in those. So as of right now, it's June 7th that we're allowing to make up those hours. We feel that that's an appropriate amount of time.
Board questions? Comments? If not, I'll call for a vote, please. It is approved. Approval of resolution appointing election judges for a May 14th, 2019 referendum. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And I'll second. It's open for discussion. Hearing no discussion, is this as a formality, we'll vote, please. It is approved. Approval of the final 2018-19 budget. Motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's open for discussion.
So the first attachment laid out a side-by-side of the original or the preliminary budget compared to the final budget. Along with that, I put some letters next to the rows that I felt that give you guys some information of why the change happened. So on the last page, that described those changes. So for that, I guess, you're welcome. If you have any questions on that, just let me know. And then also the second attachment then showed the basic change, total dollar amounts between the preliminary and the original.
Any questions, board members?
Nicely done, Deanna.
Thanks, Bob.
Please vote. It is approved. Approval of the Marshall area childcare rate increase. Do we have a motion?
I'll second.
It's open for discussion.
So we typically have rate increases happen on January 1st of each year. We did not have one happen on January of 2019. We decided to go with the school year of July 1st. And basically the increase is to help to cover increased expenditures and then also help to offset the net operational loss that we've been experiencing in the past.
Very good. Questions, board?
Are we getting a little closer to break even on that one?
Unfortunately, I don't know that we'll ever reach a break-even point with the daycare. We want to get as close as we can, but it's probably more so a service that we're providing to the school district employees as well as the community. We're definitely looking at everything we can to get it down. I think we've cut it in half since last year if the budget holds true. We should be cutting in about half of the loss from last year.
Any other questions? Hearing none, please vote. It is approved. Authorization for administration to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Southwest Minnesota State University for Health Program Student Internship in Teaching. Motion to approve. Have a second. It's open for discussion. It's always good to see partnerships.
Yeah, and just note that this is an extended agreement. So we periodically need to do this with different colleges and universities that we're going to provide internships or student teaching for.
Excellent. Any questions, board members? Hearing none, please vote. It is approved. Authorization for administration to enter into a memorandum of agreement with Minsky for health program student internships and teaching. Motion, do we have a second? Thank you. Open for. Any other questions? Hearing none, please vote. It is approved. Motion's, meeting's over. Thank you.